So there's been a lot of talk recently about the prospect of a no-fly zone over Ukraine in response to Russian aggression. Um, Russia has a pretty solid air force. I'm not sure what extent they're using that air force in the Ukraine conflict. I haven't really seen a ton of reports on the extent that the air force of Russia is being used in the conflict. But Russia does have an air force, right? So it seemingly would make sense to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has actually asked on the world stage for a no-fly zone to be put over Ukraine. So before we continue about whether that's a good idea, and it's not, I want to explain what a no-fly zone is. So a no-fly zone is a militarily enforced demarcation over an area that says no planes or aircraft of a certain type can fly here. And the reason I emphasize militarily enforced is because you can't just say no fly zone and then people start, oh, okay, well, they say no fly zone, so we're just not going to go there, right? Oftentimes, most times, all the time, that has to be enforced by someone else, right? And Ukraine doesn't have an air force that we're aware of, and if they did, they certainly can't enforce it over themselves. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try, but someone else would have to enforce it, right? And essentially, what Volodymyr Zelensky is looking for is for someone else to enforce it, which means that if you get into a situation and you're enforcing the no-fly zone and you see someone who's on the no-fly list, you have to ask them to leave, and if they don't, you have to shoot them down and kill them. Okay. Now it's different with commercial airspace, yada yada, but in this case, we're talking about a war zone. So if a nation was to say, if a nation or a group of nations was to say, we're enforcing a no-fly zone over Ukraine, that means that they have to patrol it with jets and helicopters, and they have to attack anyone who's not allowed to be there. Hopefully you can see where this is going. The reason the no-fly zone is a terrible idea is because if we, the United States, or any other NATO country, or any other nuclear-armed country, or even any other European country enforces a no-fly zone over Ukraine, we are going to get to nuclear war because it will put us in a situation. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but it isn't. It will put us in a direct trajectory for direct conventional conflict with more than one nuclear-armed power. Right now, we have a nuclear armed power and a non-nuclear armed power fighting a conventional ground war in Ukraine. Okay, and look, ground wars are scary and terrible, and what's going on is awful. And I have said this a million times. But if another country intervenes, especially a nuclear armed country, you risk the process of nuclear war. And the way that that would escalate would be that a no-fly zone, someone shoots down a Russian plane, and that plane is shot down by whatever country. So if the U.S. was to enforce a no-fly zone, then at some point a U.S. fighter jet has to shoot down a Russian fighter jet, or vice versa, which is potentially even worse because America does not react well when we are attacked, right? So if we and it doesn't have to be us. It could be any nation that Volodymyr Zelensky is asking to enforce this no-fly zone. If any of them do it, we are all screwed. End of humanity level nonsense here, okay? So just be careful with asking for additional escalation, military escalation in terms of like a no-fly zone or anything similar, because if that's the road we go down, ultimately we are creating a situation where we will create a war that we cannot turn back from. We will put ourselves in a situation that we cannot return from. And quite frankly, the old joke about millennials not being able to retire, I thought it was because our money was going to be worth nothing. We'd have to work forever, not because, we literally wouldn't live long enough to retire. Okay. I would like to live past the next couple of years. And a nuclear annihilation makes that look pretty bleak. So if you could all just not, call for a no-fly zone, that'd be great. I would really appreciate, not being nuked to high heaven. That'd be wonderful. And yeah, a no-fly zone is a terrible idea. It would not help the people of Ukraine And even if it did, it would come at a terrible cost. And it's a cost that we, the world, simply cannot afford.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, throw a like on it, share with your friends, and subscribe for more of our content. You can also find all of our videos and clips on youtube.com. Just search Let Them Eat Bread and you'll find all of our content. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye for now.